Sai Ram. Welcome to Sri Sathya Sai Logaseva Gurukulam video session. Here in Medieval World Part 2, we will be discussing about a new term called feudalism. Feudalism, political, military and social economic aspects. So here this feudalism, it was a political and social system which was practiced especially in European countries like Japan, China and other European countries. So in detail we will discuss about feudalism in this topic. Feudalism. The successor states of the Germanic peoples in the West managed to restore political stability after the collapse of the Roman Empire. See, this Roman Empire already it came to an end. So after that, the successors, especially the Germanic people in the western part, they managed to restore, they could bring the political stability, a good administration, especially in the Roman Empire. One of these states managed to create a seizable empire under the famous king Charlie Magny, which began to collapse after about the mid-9th century under the impact of the fresh phase of invasions. So after the rule of this Charlie Magny, there was a change which has happened. The resulting political chaos led to the emergence of a new kind of political order called feudalism. So, a lot of confusions it was there after the death of this Charlie Magny. So, after that they could bring the political order through this new concept called feudalism. It was a hierarchical or graded organization of political sovereignty. So, it was a hierarchy, there was an order or graded organization of political sovereignty. So, this is the king Charlie Magny. The hierarchical structure can be understood easily if we visualize a ladder or a flight of steps. So, when we just imagine as like a step. At the top of the ladder, it was the king. So, top of the ladder stood the king, below him stood the big lords known as the dukes and the earls. So, top level, who was in the top level? It was the king. Below him, next rank, it was given for dukes and the earls. Below these lords were a number of lesser lords called the barons. So, top level, it was the king. Next step, it was dukes and earls. Third step, it was barons. Below these were the knights and who were perhaps the lowest category of the lords. So, topmost category, it was the king and the lowest category, it was the knights. Lowest category, it was the knights. The lords derived their authority from and on their loyalty to the lord just above them and were known as the vassals of the lord. So, just understand, the lords derived their authority from and on their loyalty to the lord just above them were known as vassals of the lords. Immediate below the king, whichever it is comes, it is called as vassal. So, king's vassal. So, when we observe, as I told, top level it was the king, next it was earls and dukes, next level it was barons, then knights. So, this is how the hierarchy works. Did you understand? So, this is how the feudal manner works. We will discuss about this in detail. This pattern of relationship between the lords and vassals, this is between bigger lords and the lesser lords, was the same from the top of the ladder to the bottom. Here you just remember three important terms like lords, lands and the here the pattern of relationship between the lords and the vassals, that is between the bigger lords and the lesser lords, was the same from the top of the ladder to the bottom. So, when we observe, as I told, top level it is the king, then the dukes and the earls, like that I discussed, right. So, this pattern of relationship between the lords and vassals, that is between the bigger lords and the lesser lords, was the same from the top to of the ladder to the bottom. So, it is believed that three important terms you need to remember, that is lord, land and loyalty. So, see, the lord will be giving land to the vassal, and vassal in return they have the right to use the land and they are loyal to the king. These lords were all powerful in their respective local areas. So, all step by step we discussed, like first king, then duke and the earls, then knights I discussed. So, just understand they all are loyal to the immediate authority. So, these lords were all powerful in their respective local areas. Thus, political power was widely dispersed, unlike in the Roman Empire, where it was concentrated mainly in the hands of the king. So, the main power, it was in the hands of the king. This was the political aspect of feudalism. That is how the feudalism could bring this political administration in a proper manner. A unique feature of the new feudal political structure was the personal nature of the bond that linked a lord and his vassal. So, there was a connection between the lord and his vassal. An elaborate ceremony would be organized to establish this bond. In this ceremony, a vassal would take a vow to serve the lord all his life. Throughout his life, the immediate vassal of the king, he will take a vow that he will be serving the king. Like that, below, duke and earl will be taking a vow to serve the lord. Then, simultaneously, he also accepted the protection of the lord. Not only that, they will be serving throughout the life, they are guaranteeing the protection of the lord. Protection was important since these were politically unstable times. In return for the protection that was a vassal received, he was bound to perform various services for this lord. This mainly included military services, which meant that the vassal had to provide a certain number of troops whenever required by the lord. So, this vassal, they will be having troops, that means a small army will be there and they will be supporting their overlord whenever there is a need. So, this mainly included military services, which meant that the vassal had to provide a certain number of troops whenever required by the lord. In his turn, the lord was expected to make a grant, usually in the form of land, for the sustenance of the fief or the fiefdom. From this term fief only we got the term feudalism, from which the word feudalism is derived. Is it clear? The lords used to mobilize armed supporters in their own areas who had personal loyalty directly to him. So, they have the loyalty towards the lord, so it is their duty to protect the lord. With this armed strength, he would provide military support to the lord whenever required. As I told, there will be a troop, an army will be there, and whenever the lord needs that army, they will be going for the support. With this military power, the lords also became complete masters of their own area and could not be challenged even by the state. So, even an administration, even just understand even the king of Europe, the lords used to mobilize armed support in their own areas who had personal loyalty directly to him. So, they are loyal to their overlord. With this armed strength, he would provide military support to the lord whenever required. With this military power, the lords also became complete masters of their own area and could not be challenged even by the state. So, just understand, the kings became so powerful that even the state, they cannot be challenged even by the higher authorities like the state. Then, in a period of political turmoil means political confusion, just as the lords sought protection, so did the peasants. See, lords were getting support, same as even the peasants. These peasants, so what is the role of the peasants here? The peasants, they had no land of their own, no implements, and could not afford to buy seeds. For these, as for the protection, the free peasants now turned to be the lords. So, here even the peasants, they have turned to be the lords because they had a troop with them and they also became powerful during the time of feudalism. So, the administrative system, it has changed. These dependent peasants of medieval Europe, tied to the soil and completely subject to the authority of the lord, was called as serfs. So just understand, the peasants, those who were tied to the soil, they are working as a farmers. They just understand that they are tied to the soil and completely subject to the authority of the lord, were called as serfs. A major portion of the wealth generated during this period was through their exploitation. So even, see, they used to pay some amount to their lords as the economic support to the lords, and that is how this exploitation, it was happening even to the peasants. And just understand that the king of Europe was the serf of the king of France. So, like that, this feudalism was working, the system, it was working in Europe. The entire landed estate over which a feudal lord had control was known as the manor. So, in the previous picture, I was showing the manor, that is the area where the land estate, which were feudal lord, and the control which was happening, which is called as manor. The land surrounding the manor house was divided into 3 parts. So, it was like a huge house and areas. So, in that house, the land surrounding the manor house was divided into 3 parts, which are the land for the use of the lord. So, lord will be using the land. The arable land granted in parcels to the peasants. That means the cultivable land which was given for the peasants to cultivate, and the meadow lands used by everyone as grazing land for livestock. So, just understand, in the manor, when you observe this manor house, there were 3 divisions. One is land for the use of the lord, the arable land granted in parcels to the peasants, and the meadow lands. Did you understand the 3 parts? Then, just understand, the serfs who occupied these parcels or holdings were regarded tenants of the lord of the manor. So, just understand, the serfs who were serving these overlords, they occupied their parcels or holding, were regarded tenants of the lord of the manor. So, they were the tenants. So, as they were tenants, they have to pay some amount, they have to pay it back to their overlord. Being tenants, they had to give something to the lord as rent. This rent was paid by peasants in the form of labor services to the lord. So, just understand, see, these tenants, those who were using the land, so when they utilize the land, they have to pay back some amount as rent. So, they used to pay it back as labor services. They also worked on the lands of the lords for a certain number of days in the week. So, certain number of days they will be working on that land. The serfs had to put in extra labor during agricultural seasons when plugging, harvesting or the threshing was required. So, just understand, serf had to put in extra labor. They have to work hard during the cultivation time, like planting the saplings, then they will be harvesting and removing the weed. Like that, when they were harvesting the seasonal time, they had to put more effort in cultivation. Such unpaid labor services also included other heavy tasks such as construction work, hewing and cutting of firewood. In the later phase of the feudalism, these labor services were gradually substituted by those payable in money. So, just understand, later when the situation has changed, in the later phases this feudalism, these labor services were gradually substituted by those payable in money. So, there were, even for services, they started giving money. The serfs also had to pay some dues or taxes in kind which came from the share of their own produce. So, see, the serfs, they also have to pay some dues or taxes in kind which came from the share of their own produce. These were often introduced arbitrarily whenever the lord wanted more resources. So, the lords also extracted from the peasants in an indirect manner. So, lords also, they started extracting money in an indirect, not direct manner, indirect manner. The manor was a self-sufficient economic unit. So, as I told, in the picture you have seen the manor house. So, it was a self-sufficient economy. There were some people, those who were working in the farm, they were cultivating, there were lords, there were some army people, and all the, it was a self-sufficient economic system. This means that almost all articles of everyday use were produced and consumed on it. For example, I'll discuss about this. For this, there were various facilities like smithies for turning out iron objects. So, there were workers who were working with iron. Flour mills for grinding wheat or corn. So, they were grinding this wheat or corn. Ovens for baking bread. Wine presses for making wine from grapes, and various workshops for making products of everyday use. So, their own daily use items they started producing in that manor house region. All of these were owned by the lord. The peasants were forced to use these facilities, and the charges for these would of course be fixed by the lord according to his own will. So, this was fixed as per the command of the lord. Is it clear? So, can you tell me how this manner it was self-sufficient economic system? Thank you, Saira.